One of the most character-defining moments for Jaime Lannister was losing his sword hand. But what if the Kingslayer kept his good hand? How would this impact not only his character arc, but other events within Game of Thrones?
So for this what if, it doesn't really matter if you go with the show version or the book version. Jaime still gets captured either way when he's traveling with Brienne, and one way or another, he loses his hand in the main continuity. But in this, there's a lot of factors that go into this, but I think it's simplest just to say that he's not going to lose his hand. Like, whether it be Locke or the Brave Companions, they chop his hand off, but whichever one it is in this situation, they're just not going to do that. So I guess maybe they just beat the hell out of him or something like that, like beat him half to death. They have to do something to him, right? And I don't think the answer is to just chop off a different part of his body, because then it's like, okay, why wouldn't they pick his hand? Like, he's like the most renowned swordsman alive right now. You're going to pick his hand if you're trying to lessen his value back to Tywin or whatever the case may be. So let's just go from there.
So the biggest question, if he doesn't lose his hand, does he open up and have like the beginning of his redemption arc with Brienne? In your opinion, Gator, do you think he actually starts that path towards redemption, or was that hand the last straw that had to break for him to actually open up and become a better man?
I think he still does have the arc, but I think it's going to be slower paced because, dude, with this hand, he's going to be his normal Chadley self, you know, full of confidence or whatever. I guess you could say that maybe just the experience of being captured twice and I guess more or less tortured, because we could also say that instead of getting his hand cut off, he was just subjected to a lot more extreme physical abuse or whatever. So in that way, I do think he's still going to have his arc. I'm not like that bath scene, you know, the whole thing where he really opens up to Brienne. I'm not sure that happens in the exact same way. Like maybe it's just Jaime roasting Brienne the whole time, and maybe the real story of what happened with him and the Mad King slips out along the way. But I don't see it being at the same pace, you know?
Well, he does mention, at least in the book, you know, some things about the Mad King to Brienne when the Brave Companions were coming around her and, you know, eyeing her up, trying to insert into her. He said, don't fight because you're going to make it worse. If you're going to get through this, do what I did when the Mad King had his little cookouts within the throne room, and just go inside yourself, just like disconnect from this whole situation.
Well, she can't go too far inside herself, otherwise she's going to find the Brave Companions in there with her.
Oh, how'd you get in here?
Yep.
Yeah, so
and finish.
He's already giving her advice right now. So that's why I also believe that he would still have somewhat of an arc, a redemption, similar, but like you said, at a slower pace, probably because he doesn't have that final, like, I mean, this is a huge thing for him to lose his hand. It's not like just not having the ability to, you know, walk with a limp. Not being able to walk is a huge thing too, but losing your sword hand, and the only thing you've been known for, and no one knows you for your character or wit. I mean, your good looks can get you somewhere, but you know, he's also a high lord too, so that's nothing to scoff at. So yeah, I still think he goes down that arc. It just, again, a little slower. So I guess the next step after this, right, because let's imagine he opens up a little bit to Brienne. Does he have that dream from Bloodraven? I think he still has that, and it might not even be Bloodraven, but the Weirwood tree.
I was going to say, as long as he rests his head in the Weirwood tree, he's going to have the dream. And I don't know if the dream's not going to be the same dream, of course, but in some way it's got to be, I think, you know, there's a lot of camps or different schools of thought on how, like, the events are being orchestrated in the world of Song of Ice and Fire, especially when it comes to Weirwood trees and Bloodraven's visions and stuff. So I don't think that the dream that Jaime had was like set in stone. I think it's malleable. So I think that under these new circumstances, the dream will adapt. You know what I mean? Like he's being sprawled out on like a blood eagle position, and he's getting his balls slowly flattened between two pieces of plexiglass by some torturous person. And Brienne would be the one to save him, but no, she like disappears from his vision. You know what I mean? Like she's standing there. He's like, "Oh, Brienne, help me, help me." And then she disappears. Maybe she gets bitten to by a bear or something like that. Little wink, wink, nod, nod. And then it tells
right
Jaime,
on the nose.
okay,
that's not even winking, dude.
Okay, it's a black bear. It's not a grizzly. And so, yeah, maybe that's what makes his mind up about going to save her. Because I do think that he will also still save Brienne from the bear. I think that situation basically plays out the same, except in this situation, maybe he would like actually grab a real sword and jump down there. I mean, he's going to command a lot more respect in this area. He might even be able to just to say, "Hey, call this off right now." You know why? Like, are they going to keep on going if Jaime Lannister, full power, says, "Hey, knock this shit off"?
Yeah, I mean, if he has a sword, right, he could just crush them all, or like a lot of them. He's like, "I'm going to take out at least half of your men right now if you don't stop this." But he didn't have to do that when he had no hand, right? He jumped down there, or at least he jumped down there. They kind of let him do whatever he wanted. So let's just assume he jumps down there and he has a sword with him. My question is, do you think Jaime's able to kill a bear with a sword?
Dude,
bears are nothing to scoff at.
He
They're
would
not just
toy
like,
at that bear. He would dance around it. He would shave that thing's whole body with his precise
You think
sword
so?
play. Oh, yeah. It would be a bald bear before he kills it. That's how precise he is. Absolutely. Well, I don't know about that, but he would definitely kill the bear. I think so. I mean, a few well-placed strikes for sure, man.
Well, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole of this, but it just makes me think, Robert. I feel like Robert in his prime could have killed Jaime in his prime. That's me speaking with a little bit of bias. I don't have any sort of evidence. I'd like to see what people say in the comments. Comment down below who you think wins, Robert or Jaime. And I love both these characters, Jaime and Robert, but yeah.
I mean, Robert managed to kill Rhaegar, who was also a good warrior in his own right, and this is probably a Robert who was like enraged and not thinking clearly, probably isn't in his best strategic mind. I think he still did it.
Don't get me started on Rhaegar. That cringe guy with his little harp being like, oh, emo at Harrenhal. Like, is anyone even listening to me playing? Oh, yeah.
Dude, so cringe. Like, listen, okay, regardless, Brienne, the modern woman, chose the bear, and Jaime had to bail her out, okay? She's the one that chose the bear that didn't end up dying. She's lucky.
Yeah,
After
so she
that
lives.
point. Yeah, so she lives. She lives, and she travels with Jaime. I mean, back to King's Landing, right?
Right. So yeah, if we just look at it right now, him not losing his hand doesn't change a whole lot of trajectory for his character, for the location he's going to be at, based off of other events that were happening before and most likely after, because he lays his head presumably on that weirwood tree again and kind of really jolts him, gives him that like little inception of like, don't you really want to save Brienne? He's like, not really, but now sleeping on this weirwood tree really is making me think.
Yeah, she's
I gotta
all right.
go save her. She's actually not that bad. Okay, so now he's back at King's Landing, right? And before we talk about Jaime interacting with, Tywin, Cersei, Tyrion, whoever, do you think Jaime still gives the Valyrian steel sword to Brienne? Or what's the interaction like with Jaime and Brienne before Brienne eventually probably leaves King's Landing?
No, I don't think that he gives the sword. Why would he? Like, he's a swordsman now, and this is like an amazing sword for him to have. I don't think his character progression would have gone to that point yet. Like, maybe down the road, you could have extended a few years or something. I don't know about years, maybe even months. Depends on how intense it gets in Westeros over these next few months with this change. But maybe in the future he could, but I don't think Brienne's even going to be there for that situation to unfold. Maybe if it's like in the book version and Joffrey dies before they even arrive. I mean, Widow's Wail doesn't have a companion, at this point. Like, it's just kind of a loose Valyrian steel sword. So maybe she could get that one, and then he could rename that one to Oathkeeper, I guess, because he still is kind of like a... I think that he cares about oaths a little bit more at this point, because like I said, maybe this is his time when he was under the thumb of the Karen in the North, Catelyn Stark. He did make an oath to her. You know what I mean? He did swear an oath to her that he's not going to basically hurt the Starks anymore and the Stark children, whatever. That doesn't mean that he has to go out with Brienne and find the kids, which I think he does not. But at the same time, I do think that he cares about oaths. I think Brienne probably means a lot to him at this point, even if he is not going to show it in the same way. So I think best case scenario, she gets Widow's Wail. Worst case scenario, she gets nothing and down the road, bitch.
So I think Jaime still at this point wants to do right by Catelyn, who let him go, right? The Karen in the North.
Exactly.
He wants to still do right by her. And part of it is, him being like, I don't know if it's a contrarian or something, maybe, what people call us for whatever reason, just because we have base takes about Game of Thrones. Like, Walder Frey did nothing wrong. He still has never done nothing wrong and never will do anything wrong. With Jaime, he's thinking to himself, like, no one's ever going to think I'm going to be loyal or at least keep my word to Catelyn, so I'm going to do it. I'm being a little stinker by being loyal. But underneath all of that, too, as well, Jaime wants to be a good knight. He wants to, when he's looking at is it the White Book, I think, for the Kingsguard, right? And he's, like, looking at all these entries, he's like, oh, dude, these are my heroes, Arthur Dane, Lord Commander Hightower, Barristan the Bold. These were some of his heroes. And people he was basically his peers at one point. And then he looks at his book, and it's like Kingslayer. So I'm sure at this point it's impacting him too. With his hand now, losing his hand, he's in a worse spot, and he does a lot of reflection. I still think he does reflection, and he has his hand. So now he feels like he has even more power to do right by.
Yeah, to change, right?
For his name. Yeah, right,
Dude,
yeah.
So losing your hand, I don't know why I started thinking about it, but losing your hand would suck so bad. Like, it's nice that they don't have like winter or whatever right now, but can you imagine how cold that golden hand would get like in the winter? It'd be so cold. It would radiate up your arm unless you put some kind of insulated layer between. But like, who would even do that? Let us know in the comments too. If you lost your hand like this and you were in this era and you had the option, would you go gold hand or would you just go full stump? What are you doing?
Oh, Can I pick a middle? Can I go Hook? I might go Hook. Hook actually has some utility to it.
Oh, dude,
and it
that's
doesn't
true.
feel like that much.
Or even like a
metal to it.
knife or whatever. Okay, well, dude, if I could do anything I want, dude, I'd pick like a magnet, or maybe even a taser. Dude, a taser.
Magnet?
Or what if you had like a little compartment and little clips, kind of like a Tupperware, full of barbecue sauce? Because I love barbecue sauce on basically everything. Like, why not? Or, sorry, I know I'm going off on this, but if the maesters are really talented, reroute my urethra all the way up through my shoulder and down through my arm and piss out of my pointer finger like those aliens in Scary Movie 3. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
You could discreet piss so easily.
Kyburn, let's see what you're really made out of. I need my pee coming out of my stump now, please and thank you.
That's
I'm not
true.
going to ask nicely again.
Let's fix that reputation. He's a disgraced maester, not for long.
I don't think Jaime names his sword Oathkeeper. So he might keep it as Oathkeeper, but he just holds it onto himself. But if Tywin's still around and he has some sort of, I feel like, criticism or influence on Jaime's sword, it has to be named something lion related because Oathkeeper is like all lions on it. It's like a lion, the cross guards, and also at the bottom of the hilt,
Oh,
the pommel.
dude, what did you say? The hilt?
Oh, no, I said it.
Oh, shit. All right, we have to delete this video.
Do you think he names it Oathkeeper or does he name something else? And if he does, what would it be?
His sword? He's not going to name Oathkeeper. I think he might name the sword that he gives to Brienne Oathkeeper if he gives Brienne a sword.
Just some random sword? This is
like Widow's
Oathkeeper?
Wail, I'm saying. Like if it's a Valyrian steel sword, the only way I could see it, I'm just trying to make it seem somewhat comparable to the real event. So like if Widow's Wail is unoccupied at this point and for some reason no one else laid claim on it, Jaime's like, hey, anybody got dibs on this? Like, no? Okay, Brienne, you take this. It's a symbol of my gratitude to you or whatever. But if in the case of his sword alone, man, I don't know, lion's mane, lion's tongue.
The main event.
The main event. This is so stupid.
Okay, so I don't think... Let us know what you think. What should he name the sword? Comment down below. We'd love to hear it. I think Jaime fully kits out Brienne, right? Plate armor, whatever,
yeah, of course,
sword,
of
right?
course.
Gives her, everything she needs. But then he keeps Oathkeeper, names it whatever, and then Widow's Wail, I think that's like a show-only thing that he's able to take it up north or take it out to the Riverlands with him. Or I think he takes it whenever he goes up north in the show. But Widow's Wail, I'm pretty sure is just going to be with Tommen the whole time. And that's such a bad name. It's not the worst name, but come on. Joffrey, just give yourself a couple more minutes to think about the name of it.
Listen, Oathkeeper sucks ass too, so I mean, it is what it is.
Way better.
Oathkeeper's okay, but Widow's Wail, man, come on, that's not even. It's not that bad. It doesn't really make sense. That's the only problem. Is it doesn't really make sense with anything. Like, what situation are you going to be in where the widows, like, you're slaying the husbands of the widows who are now dead? Is that the implication of it?
Right. The implication is
you're
I'm
killing
slaying
him
a man,
and now he has a widow.
Is in the distance, is seeing this occur, and I'm wailing.
And you're wailing, or the woman is wailing?
The woman's wailing. It's widow's
all
wail.
right. No, okay.
I'm not wailing to the widow. That cringe simp sword.
Yep, simp. So Brienne has a full suit of armor. She's off. She's off to find Sansa or Arya or whatever. It doesn't matter. So she's off doing her own thing. Jaime's back in King's Landing. He is the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard still. Now let me ask this question, because this is going to tie into things down the line that I'm not sure of yet. But what exactly is the etiquette here when it comes to leaving the Kingsguard / staying in the Kingsguard? Are you allowed to leave whenever you want to? Like, put in your 2-week resignation? Like, what do you got to do here? Or I know they're allowed to absolve you. Like, the king can dismiss you without any punishment. But are you allowed to leave? Like, can you ask, hey, am I allowed to leave? You know what I'm saying? Like, can you put in your request to quit?
I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, Barristan is dismissed, right? That's like the first time this has ever happened, I believe.
Right.
And all the other Kingsguard, I think, are either sent to the wall. They're punished for their crimes. They're either killed or sent to the wall or whatever, whenever they're dismissed. So they're never dismissed in an honorable way. There's no honorable discharge from the Kingsguard. So, yeah, this is definitely different. And I think when Tywin suggests this to Jaime, he said, I'm going to get Joffrey to say it's okay, or whoever Tommen at the point. I think it was Joffrey that was king when Tywin's having this conversation with Jaime. So, yeah, it'd have to be signed off by the king, but it's never been done before. So this is just really breaking precedent if Joffrey dismisses 2 legendary. I mean, Jaime's legendary in his own right, and maybe not the best way possible, but legendary Kingsguardsmen.
Okay, listen, we'll cross that bridge, I guess, when we come to it. I just want to know your thoughts on that, because I guess we could have gotten into it later as well. But
No, we can talk about it right now, because Tywin, so he gets to King's Landing, right? So one of his biggest interactions, and I'm way more interested with him and Tywin than Cersei, even though that is huge for his character, the Cersei interactions. But if Tywin's there, and he talks with Jaime, and he still has his sword hand, I feel like Jaime still has, a leg to stand on or a hand to stand on.
How'd you do that?
I'll tell you after this. If Tywin goes, hey, I want you to be dismissed from the Kingsguard, when he had no hand, he's kind of useless. Not kind of, is useless. But with still both of his hands, he is the most legendary, or probably the best fighter within Westeros, because Barristan is over in Essos at this time.
Right.
How do you dismiss the GOAT?
Oh, no, that's true. That's true. So you're just saying that Tywin, he's going to value him as an asset in this way, and he's not going to let him go? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying Tywin can't use the line of attack on Jaime by saying, listen, you have no hand. You're useless as a Kingsguardman. You're not going to be able to block anybody. I could go up and stab Joffrey myself, and you wouldn't be able to stop me. But with his hand, now that he's there, Jaime can say, like, I'm still the best.
Okay. Yeah. I feel it. Okay, so this is the first thing that comes up with, I think. The Purple Wedding's going to happen, regardless of if Jaime is there or not. Joffrey is going to die. And, Tywin at first wants Jaime to go to Casterly Rock. But if Tyrion still goes to his trial by combat, because Cersei is absolutely still going to accuse Tyrion of murdering Joffrey, if it goes to a trial by combat, Tyrion is going to name Jaime. So my point in saying that is, if Jaime is a sworn man of the Kingsguard, does Tywin, or I guess Tommen, but it would be Tywin via Tommen, would Tywin have the authority to say, like, no, Jaime, you're not fighting. You're literally not going to fight in this trial by combat?
Yeah, I don't think he can do that. I don't think Tywin can do that with the Kingsguard. I think...
Like the trial by combat, like, usurps all... Because what if Tommen said that? What if Tommen's like, no, you're not fighting in a trial by combat? Or is the trial by combat, like, such an ancient and, like, sacred thing? Like, no, you name somebody and they want to, like, they consent to it, they're going to fight for you no matter what. Doesn't matter.
That's what my understanding is. And, we're asking the commenters or the viewers to comment and correct us here, but...
I don't think it's happened. I don't think it's ever been a situation that's come up where, like, the king is like, no, you can't fight in this trial by combat. But I just don't know if it's possible. But see, my thing with this too, my whole opinion on this is, I don't think that Tywin would actually let Tyrion die anyway. So it's like, if Jaime is present for this, Tywin's going to be able to think, like, the 2 steps ahead that it takes, which is not much. That, okay, if we put Tyrion to trial, he's going to ask for a trial by combat. He's not going to let himself die. He's going to request Jaime. Because I sort of think that the entire trial by combat situation was set up in a way by Tywin, or at least predicted by Tywin, to pit Oberyn Martell against the Mountain, because I think he does feel like he owes Dorne the Mountain a little bit. So if that's not a factor and he knows Jaime is going to be on one end of this trial by combat, I think he might just skip the foreplay and say, like, nah, this trial is bullshit, Tyrion, you're innocent.
Well, okay, so if Tyrion... Assuming everything goes the same as always, or not the same as always, assuming everything goes like it did in the books or TV show about the Purple Wedding, right? Tyrion's blamed for it. Tyrion, if he's able to claim Jaime first, right, for his side, then everything, then I believe Tywin would put up, like, some fake fighter up there, some Knight of the Kingsguard, like the one that everyone got triggered by whenever me and you stated that he was the fat Kingsguardman who should be doing the taste testing for Joffrey from now on. They'll put that guy up. I'm trying to remember his name again, but they might put up that guy because they're like, let's quite literally trim the fat in the Kingsguard here by putting up this guy to defend the crown or the king's accusations. So that might be the case if Tyrion gets Jaime, right? I agree with that, but what if the king? What if Joffrey or Tommen or whatever declared Jaime as their champion?
I don't think. I think that Jaime would fight for Tyrion over Tommen.
No. He has no choice. If the crown, I'm saying, like, I don't know how the draft order goes.
This is what I mean, though. Okay, right. But this is what I mean. It's like, this is why I'm asking about the trial by combat, because if 2 sides both request the same guy, it does kind of seem like, at least in the previous examples we see, the person who is going to be the fighter, like, him accepting, I feel like his decision is the final straw. You think the crown can order him to be the representation, even if he wants to fight for the opposing side?
Yeah, no, I think the crown can force you to do whatever you like. They force you to go to the wall when you don't want to go to the wall. I mean, they can tell you where you.
Okay, right. So this goes back to my previous thing. Then couldn't they just say that Jaime cannot fight at all? Because if that's the case, if that is allowed, and they can just say, Jaime, you're not taking anybody's side in this. Like, you're not going to fight for Tyrion. I think that's the outcome that would happen, because I think that Tywin would definitely see an advantage, or see an advantageous situation in having Oberyn Martell fight the Mountain, because it has the potential to settle this old feud. You know what I mean? I think there's an advantage to that versus having Jaime fight for the crown. Because, again, this is all assuming that Tywin would allow Tyrion to die, and I don't think he would. I think that, like, in the terms of public opinion, if his plan is to have Tyrion live the whole time, which I think would be the case if Jaime's around, because even if Jaime abstains from this, if Tyrion ends up dying, Jaime's going to be so pissed and disgruntled toward Tywin. And Tywin does not want that, I don't think, at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I agree.
So I don't even, it's like what you said earlier, where you take Jaime and you pit him up against some nameless knight, let's just say some like fall guy. I don't even think that would happen, because then you still have public opinion against Tyrion. Because, like, okay, yeah, sure, he won the trial by combat, but that doesn't mean he's innocent. That just means he's not getting punished for it, right? So I think that for the public image of the Lannisters, it'd be way better for him, if Jaime was here, for Tyrion to just be named innocent.
Right, or, yeah, I don't know. It's just so hard to know exactly. Yeah, it's hard to know, because, yeah, the three options is Jaime either fights for the crown, he doesn't fight at all, or he fights for Tyrion. If he fights for Tyrion, he's going to win. And if he fights for the crown, I feel like he's going to win as well, even if he fights Oberyn, which, I mean, that would be an awesome fight to watch.
It would be sweet.
It was Oberyn versus Jaime, and the whole time Tyrion is thinking, like, this is my life or Jaime's, which would suck. And what does Jaime do? Like, if I kill Oberyn, that, sentences my brother to die. Now that's like classic George R.R. Martin writing right there. So I would.
Well, it is, but we know what would happen in that situation. Jaime would just release Tyrion secretly. I mean, he did it the first time. Why wouldn't he do it the second time?
He'd kill Oberyn and then release him again. I mean, that again, like, what's the big impact on that story?
No, I don't like that.
Even
even
changes, right?
Yeah, even if that's a possibility, I don't like it very much. I think just with the whole Tywin dynamic and Jaime being here, unless you can convince me otherwise, I do think one way or another, Tyrion is going to be named innocent. That's what I think happens. I don't even think it has to be by trial by combat. Like, I do think if Jaime is the chosen champion of Tyrion and he's allowed to fight for Tyrion, then yeah, for sure, I think that he would win, and then he would be quote-unquote innocent, but not really. He just won the trial by combat. But I think it's more reasonable for Tywin just to say, no, screw this. Like, he's going to be innocent in the official trial. We're not having a trial by combat. And if that happens, Cersei is going to be pissed as fuck, dude.
Yeah, so hold on. So he's found innocent, or do they just go, like, Jaime, because he's negotiating kind of with Tywin about if I should, like, find Tyrion innocent or at least send him to the wall, I'll go back to Casterly Rock and then become, your heir again and not be a Kingsguard. So he was willing to, like, play ball there, but, with his hand, he has a lot more power on his side, saying, like, hey, listen, either I'm not going to fight for the crown, which what are you going to do? You're going to kill your heir? Like, what's your punishment you're going to give me if I disobey your orders, right? Because, like we said, the crown can force you to do whatever. There's nothing you can really do to Jaime. What are you going to do to Jaime, Tywin?
Well, right, exactly. So I think that's my point. Yeah,
right. So I think,
and I'm also not even convinced that Tywin would let Tyrion die anyway. Like, I know he was on the, taking the most massive shit that anyone's ever taken in their lives when Tyrion killed him. But, so you might think he was just groveling and lying to Tyrion, but he's like, you're a Lannister. I wouldn't let you die. I almost think that that's true. So.
You couldn't get the sarcasm in my tone, Tyrion. Okay. But Tyrion doesn't die, okay? But is he sent to the wall instead? Is like that negotiation happened beforehand where it's like, hey, we have to punish this boy somehow, and I can't do the old bend him over my knee and spank his butt raw anymore as much as I'd want to. We can't do that to Tyrion.
Again, I don't know if Tyrion gets punished at all, because Jaime's not going to be happy with that either. And I do think the priority is going to be like, okay, kind of appease Jaime in this situation and save the public image of the Lannister house. So I almost would say they would just find a fall guy for the murder of Joffrey. Like, they could pin this on anybody if they wanted to, dude. They could pin this on absolutely anybody. They could pin it on a cook. They could pin it on Littlefinger, who's mysteriously disappeared. Like, why don't they just pin it on Littlefinger?
Well, Littlefinger's not even there right now. Like, he was supposed to be on a mission. So I don't know how because no one is thinking that somehow Littlefinger came back to King's Landing to do it. He's already on a mission. He's already out, right? It's like, you think he somehow came back to poison, and then Sansa somehow. That's some real tinfoil hat that happens to be 100% correct.
Yeah, I know.
Someone's to say
I know.
that.
Wait, I'm just saying, man, if anybody's going to figure out it's Tywin, so I'm not saying that they're going to uncover the truth of it. I'm just saying that I think it's much more likely that Tyrion does not get punished for it in this situation. And if Cersei bitches enough, guess what? She's going back to Casterly Rock because she's a loose cannon. And if Tyrion doesn't die and stays in King's Landing, then I think she's just going to keep on trying to kill him. Or alternatively, you could just send Tyrion back to Casterly Rock.
Right. I don't think Tywin lets any of those three stay there all in King's Landing all at the same time. Maybe he'll let the boys stay there together, but he's never going to let, because that's the other question too. We're talking about Tywin versus Jaime when it comes to taking Tyrion's side here. Cersei wants Tyrion's head so badly. He wants Tyrion's head more than she wants Jaime's head, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes,
that
I do.
I don't know if Cersei is just going to say, I'm just going to close my legs. You need to take my side, simp boy. And I don't know if Jaime at this point is going to just, listen to her.
Well, dude, there's a world, too, where I think with all of this dissent against Tyrion, potentially, if it is playing out this way, maybe it's prior to the trial or whatever, and Cersei just has this unbelievable animosity. Like, Jaime's obviously not on board with that. He's not cool with that. If Tyrion decides to tell Jaime, or if he finds out, through the grapevine or from Varys or whoever, that Cersei's been getting plugged by every dude in King's Landing while he's away, especially like Lancel and all these dudes, it's like, I'm not saying he's going to hate her, but he's not in this like weakened emotional state where he feels like he needs people to be important or whatever. Maybe he's a little more headstrong at this point. And he's got his brother to back him up. He's got his dad to back him up. He has Brienne to back him up too. Like, not to back him up in this moment, but she's there as like a support system for him if he needs it. Maybe he would just be like, I'm done with you for now. Like, you betrayed me in this way. I can't believe it. Like, I've never betrayed you, and this is what you do behind my back when I'm gone for 5 minutes. I'm literally a war prisoner, and this is what you do.
Right.
So I could just see it happening. I'm not saying it's permanent, but even if it's just a momentary lapse like that, maybe Jaime wouldn't give a single shit, and I'm sure Tywin is dialed into the dynamics of these two at that time as well. And if that happens, he could easily seize that opportunity and be like, oh, Cersei, you're gone. You're going to Casterly Rock in this moment where Jaime doesn't give a shit. And listen, if Brienne's still around when he discovers this, maybe, Jaime could take her to pound school real quick, depending on his standing in the Kingsguard. I don't know. Little revenge.
Well, I think like you said, the question is, does Tyrion tell Jaime, and how does he say it to Jaime about, the Kettle Black and the Lancel and potentially Moon Boy she's taken to bed with, right?
Yeah, Moon
and
Boy.
I think Tyrion says that to Jaime if, for whatever reason, when they have their conversations in the cell, Jaime's like, my hot sister, I don't know if you've met her before, but she really doesn't want me to be taking your side, bro. And he's like, well, what side she's been taking is the other sides of these guys' beds. And he's like, oh, fuck. I could see Tyrion using that. But then, Jaime would have to investigate, and that might be the whole catalyst why Jaime, is 100% on Tyrion's side then, right? Like, and is not going to wave by saying, like, you know what, maybe Dad, maybe Cersei, I'm getting enough influence from you guys about potentially punishing Tyrion. And he's like, no, I'm not going to we're not going to punish this guy. He's done nothing wrong. You guys have been screwing up my life and other men for whatever reason, and I'm pissed now. So, yeah, I think...
Can you imagine, like, from the Tywin's perspective, if Jaime came to him and be like, hey, listen, me and Tyrion were talking in the cell. I kind of let it slip the truth of what happened with Tyrion's first fiance or his first wife or whatever when she got plowed by every member of our troop and the horses, too, and he got sloppy 84ths. I told him the truth of the matter. And then he let it slip that Cersei's been pounding other dudes while I'm away. And he's like, I don't know if you know this, Daddy Tywin, but me and Cersei are somewhat of an item. And then Tywin's like, yeah, I know. We all know. And then Jaime's like, that's been disgraceful. I understand that. And I'm actually going to cut it off right now for the family if you take this trial away on behalf of Tyrion. So I think...
Right.
I think that's a win-win for Tywin. Like, get rid of Cersei, which is a huge point of contention for every single human being. Get rid of the relationship that's like always this, lurking under the surface disgrace to the Lannister family that could be exposed if it's like too widely accepted or seen in public, which there's always a chance of that happening. And at the same time, all that needs to happen is that Tyrion is spared. Like, definitely the intellectual heir to Tywin.
Yeah. Well, I think
it's a good
people
deal.
need to give Tywin a little bit of grace here, even though they're like, Tywin, this whole time you had no idea. I think Tywin's just getting a lot of shit from a lot of people.
He
This
knows.
is just like one of the many insults. No, I don't. I think Tywin might know. Maybe he suspects it. But when he hears these accusations, of potentially his son and daughter, doing the hoochie coochie somewhere in King's Landing, he's probably thinking to himself, people are saying a bunch of shit about me. They talk about my deformed son, and they say all this stuff about my wife and even me. Like when I was starting to bald a little bit, and he just shaved it all off, right? He started thin, like no half measures. Yeah, so maybe he just kind of puts it all as white noise. So just give Tywin a little bit of grace.
No way, dude. Did you shitting me? Well, we like Tywin too. Okay, obviously I like Tywin, but he knew about them doing it when they were kids. Why would he not?
No. I think the mom did. Tywin's wife, and
he
Jaime
didn't know. Are you sure?
Well, he might have known or suspected something, and maybe when they were kids. But do you think when he sees Joffrey, do you think he says that's the child of incest at all? I think a lot of people, and I think the mainstream view of Song of Ice and Fire theorists or enjoyers of this content might say yes, he knew this whole time, or at least suspected it. I think he suspects it, but I think you can convince yourself of anything if you say it enough times. And I think Tywin's like, yo, my kids would never do that to me. That is the most disgusting thing ever. I don't think
Dude, the way I see, okay, if Ned Stark can figure it out, Tywin knew about it like 10 years ago. Okay, that's the reality. Ned Stark is an idiot, man. He's an anvil chin. He's an anvil brain.
Well, that's the whole reason why Tywin wants to get them out of King's Landing together. They can't be left alone together. I'm sure that's another reason why. So Tyrion goes, well, we don't know what happens with Tyrion just yet. So Cersei or Jaime goes back to the Westerlands. Which one goes and why?
I mean, I would understand either one, but I think it depends on what happens to Tyrion. Because if Tyrion stays, then it's just another point where Cersei is going to be at this guy all the time. She's going to be constantly stacking the court in her favor and trying to work little deals. And I'd be rolling my eyes if I was Tywin. And if I was Tywin, I'd be sending Cersei back to Casterly Rock, which kind of is maybe irresponsible because she's out of sight of mind. But if Kevin Lannister's over there, or maybe he's not, maybe he's in the Riverlands at this point.
No,
hard to
Kevin
say.
Lannister might be. Hold on, this is what I think Tywin's plan is, real quick, because your idea is completely stupid and you sound like an idiot.
Yeah, it sucks.
So we already talked about Tywin wants to remarry, I think, Cersei to the heir of Highgarden, right? That's Mace Tyrell's oldest son. I think she's going to go there, right? So she's not going to go back to Casterly Rock. She's going to be sent to Highgarden. And
right. Okay.
If
Yeah.
that's the case, then I think maybe Jaime also gets sent over to Casterly Rock and does not stay on the Kingsguard anymore as like negotiation for, or do you think he still stays on the Kingsguard for what's called for Tywin and Tommen at this point, or does he get sent back?
I think he could do either one, and I don't think it affects a ton of the story going forward whether or not he does one or the other, because a lot of the stuff that happens in King's Landing from now on, it's just not that Jaime intensive. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely just some small things with like River Run and stuff. So maybe he lifts the siege of River Run, and then on his way back, he's supposed to be sitting back at, Casterly Rock. I almost want to say Crasterly.
It is Crasterly. It's Crasterly Rock because it's the most beautiful golden place in all of the land. But yeah, that's exactly right. The siege of River Run still happens. It's largely a passive ordeal. And then he would go back, and that's where I don't think it matters much. The bigger impact thing here is Tywin now remaining as the hand to Tommen, because this is basically just Tywin running the realm, right?
Right, Tywin runs the realm. I think, well, that's the other question, too, in Tywin's story is a lot of people have theorized that Tywin was getting poisoned, right, when he was letting off the biggest shit of all time.
I don't believe that.
Hand of the Tower. Yeah, you don't believe that 1 second? You don't think
I don't
either the
that.
Red Viper or Lady Olenna have been slowly poisoning him, been microdosing him?
No, I don't think. Well, okay, listen, it's possible. Maybe Lady Olenna would, but I don't think so. I mean, that's such an extreme stretch. I feel like, man, he could have just been eating something a little bit nasty. Like the Dornish were around at that time. They're probably trying to appease them with their disgusting ethnic food. Get out of here. Imagine what it's like walking into a Dornish apartment building, dude.
The smell alone makes me want to, fall on my sword like our Cargill in House of the Dragon.
So kill yourself in the stupidest way possible, real nice.
Yeah, take me I want to get out of here the hardest way possible by pogo sticking on my sword, blade up.
God damn.
Yeah, so I guess another question, which we don't spend too much time on, maybe we'll do a whole video on this alone, but what happens with Shay? We could do a whole video on this, right?
Yeah, good question. What happens with Shay?
I hope she's drugged through the streets like Tywin did to his stepmom as soon as Titus died.
Oh, you know what?
Listen.
Dragging through the streets reminds me. So, like, okay, yeah, Tywin's here. We can run through a lot of this stuff. The High Sparrow's not going to be there, right? That's just bullshit. And yeah, there's no way. That's never going to happen.
Well, Cersei might not even be there, right? Yeah. So.
Right, yeah. So that is absolutely never going to happen. The Ironborn are pillaging the Reach eventually after this time. But if Tywin's here, Mace is going to reach out to Tywin like he did with Cersei. But Cersei
he's going to reach around.
He's going to give Tywin a reach around, and Mace, because Mace is, he's a little too hungry to focus on how to beat the Ironborn or whatever. Can't focus, can't find his mental clarity with such a giant appetite. So he reaches out to Tywin, and I think Tywin absolutely would value that alliance enough to just, swiftly defeat the Ironborn. Like, what the hell? Why not?
Wait. What the hell are you saying? You're saying Mace Tyrell is going to have an alliance with
Tywin?
Tywin? Yeah, I mean, that alliance already is there with Tom and going to be marrying Marjorie, right?
That's what I'm saying. I think Tywin would value that a whole lot more than Cersei would. So when Mace Tyrell reaches out and asks for help, when the Ironborn are, pillaging the Reach, Tywin will just be like, oh yeah, no problem, dude. Send over some forces or at least give some strategic help. And then, the Ironborn are easily wiped out. I don't even think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think also Tywin would be able to keep Tommen's head on his shoulders properly, right? He's able to manipulate him. But also make sure he doesn't become a simp, even though Marjorie is probably the most simp-worthy woman within all of Westeros that, I think we even gave him a pass in our simp ranking video. Go check it out if you haven't already. I love that video. And we probably should do one for House of the Dragon. But I think Tywin's a great influence in there. Other than, like, potentially close enough to Ironborn and, they go after some of the Westerlands too. Real quick, going back to Jaime's arc, I think he might be more aggressive in the Riverlands than he is in the books because he's very diplomatic in a sense because he doesn't have his ability to, slay people down any chance he can,
Well, I think he'd be much more aggressive, but it depends on who that aggression is directed towards because I'm pretty sure his little oath to Catelyn was basically, I'm not going to go after the Tullys or the Starks anymore. Right. So, I mean, who's he going to go after? Like the Freys are on his side, so unless he starts going ham on his own side, I'm not sure what he's going to do, unless you're just talking about like his attitude being more aggressive and assertive, because if that's the case, that's fine, but it doesn't really change anything then. It's just going to be the same outcome, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he challenges the Blackfish to 1v1, right? Just like, hey, you come out here. Which, I mean, the Blackfish would be stupid to take that. Jaime in his prime.
Well, yeah, but and even then, though, he can't kill him, right? Because then he'd still be breaking his oath to Catelyn. Or does that not count if it's like a friendly game?
Hold on, what was the oath to Catelyn? Don't kill the Blackfish?
No. But Tullys, you know what I mean? Like Tullys. Oh,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Tullys and Starks. Yeah, so it's like
Damn.
I feel like he can't do it. I think he could capture him or like interrogate him or whatever. Do the little Casino Royale ball torture. But as long as no one dies, I don't think he can spill their blood. I think that's the deal.
Catelyn, you never said anything about ball flattening of Tullys, huh? Did you?
Mind if I speed bag the Blackfish's sack for a while? Is that okay within this pact?
So what happens with Oberyn Martell? Because he's basically been edged this whole time within King's Landing. He's up there thinking he's going to get some Lannister blood. With the Red Viper still around, little stinker of Dorne, is he going to go back to Sunspear? And I think there was some rumors, or at least some talks. I'm trying to remember where this was discussed about potentially, maybe Doran was saying it, about Tyrion maybe coming down there. Okay, this guy clearly knows what he's talking about. Maybe we could, sweep him down here and help us out.
See, that's one of those things. Sorry to cut you off, but I agree with you right off the bat. I think that's definitely one of those things because Tywin, I don't think he wants Tyrion dead. I don't think he would let Tyrion die, but I do think that he kind of is sadistic toward Tyrion in a way and kind of likes to see him squirm or whatever. So I definitely think that sending him down to dirty, disgusting Toad Haven Dorne would be a good place for him because he could actually get some stuff done there too. It helps shore up relations with the house. I could also maybe see, this is really extreme now, this is like almost borderline fan fiction here, but if he really wanted to make things good with Dorne and especially the Red Viper, and he wasn't able to orchestrate an actual official fight between the Mountain and Oberyn, I think he could possibly hold a public trial for the Mountain and basically condemn the actions that he did during Robert's Rebellion, and then you could maybe have Oberyn fight the Mountain in a trial by combat situation and just kind of let things turn out how they turn out. Because if he does that publicly, man, how could Dorne still be angry at him? Even if the mountain ends up being Oberyn, how could they be angry?
They couldn't if it was the trial and he's held responsible, even though they might think that Tywin by the end of Tywin overall was the one that gave the order. So it's like, yeah, he's just a
But if Tywin's holding the trial though and saying like, I absolutely did not get this order, and after my talks with Oberyn here, I found out like the actual atrocities these were. I can't believe that this happened. I'm so sorry.
I mean, they probably have to show face and say that's fine, but I don't think they're friendly with the Lannisters after that, and they're totally good, right? I think there's still bad blood there. It's a good gesture. It just came how many years too late?
Well, right. I think like a few generations down the road, I think it's fine, right?
Right. Yeah, and plus, like that's assuming generations go by where potentially Marcella marries. Is it Tristan? What's his name? The Tristane, and they become a line of Martells, right? So whatever. I think they're able to mend it that way, but yeah.
But also stay tuned eventually for our "The Mountain Did Nothing Wrong" video that will be coming at some point.
Oh yeah. If people get triggered by our Craster video, just wait till our Mountain video.
Just wait.
Yeah. I think also Tywin might actually approve of Tyrion going down to Sunspear, because maybe he's thinking, these stupid Dornish boys are gonna kill a Lannister if it's left alone. And two birds in one stone. If Tywin really wants
right,
Tyrion
if
dead,
he did, yep.
Then it's like two birds in one stone. Like Tyrion dies, hopefully that satisfies the Martells for a little bit. So maybe Tywin, his best move would be, if he actually wanted Tyrion dead, to butter up Tyrion all the time whenever he's alone with the Red Viper. He's like, oh, don't get me started with Tyrion. I love that boy. He's so brilliant. I love him so much. I'm so glad he's heir to Casterly Rock, because he is so brilliant, so beautiful. Have you seen his nose? It's so cool. Really? The battle scar,
He's like, oh, really? Tell me more about this boy.
How pissed I would be if my son somehow passed away in any way. I would be heartbroken. I think I would probably just jump off the Hand of the Tower, or the Tower of the Hand, whatever. But I think the Red Viper still wants his pound of flesh with the Mountain. The Mountain's not able to go into the Riverlands at all to, raid it at all, because now there's basically peace. The War of the Five Kings is almost over, with I guess he can go in there if he wants to lift the siege off of, help with the siege of Riverrun. But I think the Mountain's the best whenever he can just be a agent of chaos. And who's really against him right now besides people on boats? Like the North is basically going to get swept up. The Riverlands is going to get taken care of. Other than that, the Mountain's just going to be, sitting around. I think Oberyn might want to go get him.
So yeah, all this stuff I think is pretty set in stone. And when it comes to south of the neck kind of stuff. So what happens specifically in the North and at the Wall? What do you think? Like what's Stannis doing right now? Because I think Stannis still answered the call.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, Stannis is still going up north. He still answered the call. He's up at the Wall with Jon. The Red Wedding still obviously happened. So you have this force up north now. The Boltons are definitely on team Lannister. They're more powerful than ever. So now you have this little mini faction of Stannis way, way up north at the Wall versus like the entire combined southern hemisphere. You know what I mean? Or like southern, I don't even know what you call it. It's a massive wave. I guess they just get wiped out, right? Like, do you think there's a chance that Stannis surrenders? Is there any way that Stannis surrenders?
Well, this is basically what's happening in the books right now. What's really different other than just Jaime having his hand? What's really different compared to like how we're dealing with a Dance of Dragons into a Winds of Winter?
Yeah, you're right.
How's it really changed?
The only difference is like a much more competent leader in Tywin. So like there's just maybe more confidence.
Oh, true. Yeah, Tywin's still there.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
But again though, that's like power wise, you're right. There's really not that big of a difference because Euron is still going to be in charge over at the Iron Islands. They're still going to be doing their weird scheme of sending Victarion over to Essos, unless Tywin's on top of this too, because if Tywin's here, again, I feel like we do this every single what if video, but
yeah,
does Tywin send somebody over to kill Daenerys? Like, does that happen?
I hope he would, but
I hope so too.
Maybe after this whole trial stuff, maybe he can kind of let his hair down, or lack thereof, right? Or let his sideburns down, probably be more accurate for Tywin. And he can actually start thinking about, over in Essos and taking care of that issue, because these dragons are going to become an issue later on for King's Landing. I think Tywin, like you said, because the Faith Militant doesn't rise up, and that's the difference too, I guess, within King's Landing in the main storyline is
right. Yeah, they're
King's
way
Landing
more strong and unified.
It's a complete mess, but you have to go through so many forces to get down there. It's not like there's like a streamlined path that somehow Stannis wants. If he was to take Winterfell, he could just be like, all right, next step, take King's Landing. It's like, no. You got to go through a lot of stuff to get down there. So, yeah, I think Tywin would try to take care of Dany, right? needs to take care of that. I think I don't know if he's effective at it, but he definitely tries to maybe change his focus up there and just lets the Boltons deal with Stannis up in the north.
Which they might be able to do. Who knows? And even if they don't, if Stannis manages to like barely win that battle, or maybe he wins it handily, who knows? It doesn't even matter. Like if they beat the Boltons, then I think Tywin just starts taking it seriously and sends a real force up there, and then they're obliterated immediately. Unless the Red Woman pulls out some serious magic, which I don't think that she's going to. Yeah, I guess. And then so what about the Greyjoys? Like anything happening with them, you think? I think probably not.
Probably not. I don't know how. This is so hard, too, because now we're getting into book territory, like you said earlier. I don't know how the Battle of Old Town's going to play out, because I don't know how much Tywin, Jaime, like Cersei influence there could be at all in that conflict.
What about Varys?
Compared to,
is he still with young Griff coming over?
Well, yeah, Varys needs to find his exit somehow, right? So that's Varys's definitely plot. I don't know how he's like, oh, hold on, maybe he rides down with Tyrion to Sunspear, and on his way back up, kind of, touches base in Essos or something.
Touches tips.
But Varys definitely, because we see in the books, Varys kills Kevin Lannister, right? So I feel like Varys might be the death of Tywin. He might be the one that needs to cause chaos up there, because Kevin Lannister can kind of keep shit together, and Tywin's definitely keeping shit together. I think Lady Olenna wants Tywin dead a little bit, or at least hindered at some point. The Tyrells definitely want to increase their influence in the King's Landing, so it's very difficult for Tywin, the baseball boy that he is, to allow that to happen.
That's true, but I think it would be a stretch to say that Olenna or Varys or anything would be able to orchestrate the death of Tywin, or even like any kind of sabotage in a military way that would lead to his forces being severely weakened or anything like that. I think they could maybe be planning things in the background, but I think it's too much of a stretch to say that they have an effective plan as of now. I think you're right. I think Varys could easily travel down to the worst of the Seven Kingdoms with Tyrion, and from there he could kind of, deuces over to Essos or wherever he's finding Aegon Targaryen, allegedly, right, and Jon Connington. Right. I think wherever they are, he could still get there, and they could still come over. So once again, I feel like we're ending another one of these what-ifs with the possibility of Aegon Targaryen, young Griff, Daenerys, and Euron Greyjoy having a dragon or something. Or either that or she dies, right, or whatever. Yeah, I have no idea. That's the fanfic territory, but it's like it's realistic in the way that the story's going, right?
Yeah, right. And with this, though, I have a question to ask you with Jaime, right? And we don't know where he's going to be, probably close in the Westerlands and the Riverlands, and Cersei, God willing, she's like in Highgarden, in the Reach, whatever. But do you think Jaime is actually going to kill Cersei because he's going to be the Valonqar? Do you think Jaime's actually going to kill her, not like how they did in the show where it's like, oh, yeah, they felt that. I don't know how they justified that, but I do like it whenever there's a prophecy and she thinks she understands it, but it's actually misunderstood, right, who the Valonqar is. How did she die from any Valonqar within the TV show? I guess that's a separate point, but do you think, or who kills Cersei in the end of it, and is it Jaime?
Does she have to die at all? You're set on this? You're married to this idea? Cersei's got to die?
She had this prophetic thing.
I remember at the very beginning.
Maggie the Frog, right? Where it said, like, 3 will be their golden hair or whatever, some shit like that. And that she's going to be killed by the Valonqar. She always thinks it's Tyrion. Haha, what poetic justice. The man you've been taking to bed every day is going to put you to your final rest, right? Yeah. So I like that. And it might be predictable by some people, but like just because it's somewhat predictable doesn't mean it's not a good story beat and a good character. Like, ooh, that's kind of cool.
Maybe her new Tyrell fuckboy dyed his hair blonde, and she's taking him to bed every night, so he kills her because she's such an insufferable bitch.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and smash that like button.
Or not, we don't care.